New frontiers for mutual partnership. Nigeria, Equatorial Guinea sign agreement on gas pipeline.
It provides new hope for our educational initiatives.
Vice President Kashim Shettima sees autonomy local councils as elixir for accelerated growth of universal basic education.
We've achieved 5,155 megawatts, which keeps us on the right track to achieving these 6,000. But we have to sustain it.
6,000 megawatts target. Federal government tasks stakeholders in generation of electricity. Hello and thank you for joining us on the Network News on NTA. I'm Naja Atutejani, standing by, or should I say sitting in, for Jummai Yusuf. And joining me tonight from Lagos is Hingino John Adams. While on business news, Benny Adams is standing by to give us the latest. What should we expect, Benny?
Well, cheering news as Nigeria's inflation declines for the first time in 19 months.
Well, we look forward to that report in the course of the bulletin. And joining us live on Sports Update, Bade Adeleye. Bade, what should we expect?
Nigeria too. We're still celebrating the Tigress of Nigeria for their outing at the Olympics. But for the mainstream D Tigers, the news coming about them is not too good.
Well, we're looking forward to the details as well. Remember that NTA News is always live on our website, nta.ng/live, our YouTube channel, NTA News, and do follow us across social media for all the latest. And now the news. President Bola Tinubu and Equatorial Guinean President Teodoro Obiang Nguema Basogo have signed an agreement on the Gulf of Guinea pipeline project, further affirming the partnership for mutual development. A statement by the Special Advisor on Media and Publicity, Ajurin Gelale, indicates the agreement covers regulatory measures for establishment of the gas pipeline, operation, transit and ownership. President Tinubu remarked that signing the agreement would open up new opportunities for gas exploration and employment in Africa. The president of Equatorial Guinea said bilateral relations with Nigeria over many years have been rewarding, emphasizing the need for Africa to have a permanent seat on the UN Security Council. Meanwhile, the Supreme Court judgment granting autonomy to local government councils will enhance Nigeria's universal basic education. Vice President Kashim Shettima stated this during the public presentation of a book, Navigating the Politics of Universal Education Policies in Nigeria, written by former Deputy Governor of Ekiti State, Professor Modupe Adelabu. State House correspondent Abdurrahman Jibrila reports.
Professor Adelabu's insights are born out of experience and passion, and I believe this book will serve as a critical resource for all who seek to improve our educational landscape.
This is a celebration of excellence and scholarship. The book, Navigating the Politics of Universal Education Policies in Nigeria, bringing together politics, education and funding, focuses on how Nigeria fared in the race to educate its citizens in line with the evolving needs in the global market.
By reading that book, we shall be wiser and we shall know better. We are going to be wiser. And for taking a copy of that book and reading it, we are going to know better about education.
Nigeria cannot stand as an island. While we are thinking of what we need there, let's also think of how we are going to be relevant globally. And that is what I've tried to talk about in this book.
And the federal government is leveraging the charge to actualize educational agenda by using the local government area to ensure proper policy implementation.
The recent Supreme Court judgment empowering local government councils to control their resources brings government closer to the people. It provides new hope for our educational initiatives. And as a governor, as a former governor, I won't join in gloating and insulting the governors that they have been castrated from having access to local government funds. Apart from it, we need to align with the governors and see that the educational needs of our children are catered for.
I know that when we pick a copy of this book, or more copies for others to read, we'll be transferring that version of Prof to each and every one of us.
The greatest concern of discussant is the politics that has eaten deep into the standards of the nation's education, urging government at all levels to review educational policies in Nigeria for national development. In Abuja, Abraham Jibrila, NTA News.
Talking judicial matters, the National Judicial Council has recommended Justice Kudirat Kekereekun to President Bola Tinubu for appointment as Chief Justice of Nigeria. The council made the recommendation at its meeting, which ended in Abuja. The recommendation of Justice Kekereekun follows the pending retirement of Justice Olukayode Ariwola as the Chief Justice of Nigeria, due by next week Thursday. Born on May 7, 1958, Justice Kudirat Kekereekun obtained her LLB in 1980 from the University of Lagos and was called to the Nigerian bar on 10th July 1981. A life bencher, she was elevated to the bench of the Supreme Court of Nigeria as the 5th female justice of the court. The justice of the court. Meanwhile, the presidency has reacted to alleged attempts by a Chinese company, Zhongshan Fucheng Industrial Investment Company Limited, to take over offshore assets of the federal government of Nigeria through fraudulent means. In a statement by the Special Advisor on Information and Strategy, Bayo Onanuga, the federal government says it is not under any contractual obligation to the company, as the case is between the company and Ogun State government, which has been making efforts to resolve the matter amicably. The statement insists the contract with Ogun State was revoked in 2015 because the Chinese company had only erected a perimeter fence on the land earmarked for a free trade zone. Onanuga explains that Ogun State is still working with the Attorney General and Minister of Justice on the amicable solution, saying Zhongshan obtained 2 orders from the Judicial Court of Paris in March and August without any notice being duly served on either the federal government or Ogun State government. The presidential advisor likens the latest arm-twisting tactics by the Chinese company to the P&ID case, in which questionable individuals falsely presented themselves as investors to undercut government in Africa. The government gives assurance to Nigerians of readiness to protect the nation's assets in foreign jurisdictions from predators. Nigeria's inflation rate has dropped for the first time in 19 months in July 2024. Statistics shows that the headline inflation dipped to 33.4% in annual terms from 34.19% in June. Muplang Dakok has the details.
In June 2024, Nigeria's inflation stood at 34.19%, with food inflation as high as 44.87%. However, latest data from the National Bureau of Statistics for July 2024 shows that inflation decreased to 33.4% in July 2024, marking the first decline in the rate since December 2022. Food component and non-alcoholic beverage accounted for 17.30% out of 33.40%, showing that pressure point remains food. The data also shows that inflation rate was highest in Bauchi State and lowest in Benue State. Food inflation was highest in Sokoto and lowest in Adamawa State. Despite this decline, the headline inflation rate remains significantly higher than the 24.08% recorded in July 2023, reflecting a year-on-year increase of 9.32%. Economic analysts believe that the easing in the headline inflation is majorly due to moderation of food inflation brought about by the harvest season. It is also hoped that the slight drop in the prices of goods will be sustained to bring some relief to Nigerians who have grappled with continuous inflation for several months. In Abuja, Muplang Dakok, NTA News.
Now, to give insight into this promising report is Professor Uche W, Director, Institute of Capital Market Studies, Nasarawa State University, Kefi. Thank you for joining NTA News, sir.
Thank you so much, Najatu.
Now, the latest inflation figures show it's easing off in regards to a year-on-year basis, and it seems this is the first time in many months. Can you take us through the numbers and what they mean for the country?
Yeah, Najatu, well, it's cheering news. As you rightly pointed out, it's the first time in 19 months since December 2022, when inflation rate stood at 21.3%. So it would appear as though a turning point has been reached, and that's largely on the back of the harvest season. And I also think it's also on the back of even some of the measures the government some of the measures they have taken. So I see a situation in which we may begin to even experience disinflation. Disinflation is a situation in which, yes, prices are rising, but are rising at a slower pace. So for the rest of the year, we may experience disinflation, not only on the back of the harvest season, but also on the back of the measures I talked about earlier, notably the waiver of import taxes on pharmaceuticals, the waiver again of duty on essential food items such as rice, maize, and wheat, and of course the rollout of the CNG buses that we're expecting will happen any moment.
Let me cut in there.
So I think all of that will help to moderate inflation in the months ahead.
Let me cut in there. I mean, you did mention the harvest, and of course the food component remains a significant pressure point, accounting for 17.3% of the total inflation rate. Now, I know you've talked a little bit, you've introduced something. What, in your view, needs to be done to ease the pressure, particularly considering like you said, the latest waiver on food imports and some commodities by the FG?
Yeah, so even at 33.4%, there's no doubt that inflation, headline inflation is elevated, is very high. If you compare that with what the central bank is targeting for the year, that's 21.4%. So it's still a far cry. And what do we need to do? It's very simple. It's to look at the MBS report and make use of it. And what's that report saying? That report is saying that out of the 33.4, food and non-alcoholic beverages account for 17.3%. That's over 50%. Okay. Now, if you take the first 4 divisions of the MBS 12 divisions, food, the first one 17.3, you're looking at electricity and fuel about 5.59, and then you take clothing and transport in that order, you have about 27%, or about 28%. So if we really want to get to single-digit inflation, all right, in the next maybe before the end of next year, we need to tackle these major drivers of inflation in Nigeria, and principally food. Okay, and that's why I think the central bank also has a role to play. Yes, why the central bank worries about money supply, for example, is important that the MBS data is used as evidence to tackle inflation in Nigeria. And what does that mean? On the part of the monetary authority, it also means that the central bank can support, the growth, the needed growth in agriculture through, targeted interventions. They don't have to do it directly. They can, choose to do that through the development finance institutions. But what is important is that both the fiscal and monetary recognize the key drivers of inflation, and they are tackling that, tackling the drivers, together.
So I was going to ask that question, but you've already answered it. Recognize the key drivers of inflation and tackle them. I've been speaking with the Director, Institute of Capital Market Studies at Nasarawa State University, Professor Uche W. Thank you very much, sir. My
pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Gombe State government has concluded arrangements to explore a $1.5 billion partnership with the Islamic Development Bank in areas of agriculture, education, and other social interventions to fast-track development for prosperity in the jewel of the savannah. Correspondent Abubakar Akwanga reports.
Gombe State, blessed with about 20,000 square kilometers of landmass and 3 million population size, is upscaling partnerships to drive an agenda for the utilization of abundant human and material resources. Now the latest is the commitment secured to leverage on the $1.5 billion facility of the Islamic Development Bank in Nigeria to deepen investment scope in agriculture and other areas of comparative advantage within and around the borders of neighboring states.
As part of the effort that this government did, we put up industrial park, that is to stimulate economic activity around the production of either agricultural livestock or mineral resources that we can add value to in terms of processing, to see that we can support and get badly required foreign exchange for Nigeria.
I would like to inform you that the bank is quite active in Nigeria. We have a current portfolio of around $1.5 billion. We are working in 17 states. This year, we have been working with the Gombe State, the consultant, to identify, in new intervention areas since last year. And I hope that this year we can conclude our discussion, and hopefully next year we'll have some new projects coming up, inshallah.
Other areas of social interventions include reformation of Almajiri school system and addressing out-of-school children phenomenon, which again in attention of northern governors. Governor Muhammadu Inuwa Yahya also promised to water grounds for free flow of investors in key areas that support government initiative in putting Gombe on the global map of advanced economies. In Abuja, Abubakar Akwanga, NTA News.
This is the network news on NTA. Do stay tuned for more reports after some messages.
Good to have you here. And now talking business. The federal government has announced plans to adopt a new approach in addressing the challenges of internally displaced persons and refugee management in the country. Minister of Budget and Economic Planning, Abubakar Atiku Abubakar Bagudu, made this known while receiving a delegation from the United Nations High Commission for Refugees in Abuja. The new strategy will focus on enhancing its role in coordinating financing and planning efforts across federal, state and local government, and working with international partners to find effective solutions.
Prosperity can be more equitably shared or accessible such that the reasons why people move will be drastically reduced. I believe Nigeria will support, and our ministry will cooperate in any way, shape or form in realizing that.
Now, the Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, has reaffirmed commitment to advancing the Nigerian capital markets and the nation's economy, aligning with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's renewed hope agenda. This is as the SEC is restructuring the Capital Market Committee to optimize its role in driving market growth. Director General of SEC, Dr. Emomotimi Agama, emphasized the need for public-private sector collaborations to sustain the economy. He says SEC has approved 9 new issuances totaling 1.228 trillion naira, reflecting increase in market confidence. And Agama adds that the net asset value of registered mutual funds has grown to 111.08% to 3.335 trillion naira. as well as the regulators also succeeding in convicting a Ponzi scheme operator, thereby reinforcing its stance against market offenders. Dr. Agama says the Commission is working to reduce unclaimed dividends and has established an investor protection fund, in addition to implementing initiatives to manage systemic risks, enhance complaints management, and improving the rule-making process to encourage companies to list and promote good corporate governance, private sector investment, as well as alternative assets development. And still on the market, investors lost 56.12 billion naira as the all-share index declined by 0.10% to close at 97,100.36 basis points. A total of 271.2 million shares in 7,233 deals, corresponding to a market value of 3.522 billion naira, were traded. Today's data shows 14% decline in volume, 36% decline in turnover, and 14% decline in deals. The current market capitalization is 55.1 trillion naira. On the aggregate, 116 listed equities participated in trading, ending with 14 gainers and 31 losers. Veritas Capital Assurance recorded the highest volume of 33.4 million traded shares, followed by Sterling Bank 16.6 million, Echo Insurance 16.4 million, and Reed Briscoe 16.2 million. That is business news. Naja is over to you for the continuation of the news.
Thank you, Benny. Always love listening to business reports. And we're talking media matters now, beginning with the Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, who has urged international media outlets to adhere to the principles of fairness, accuracy, and objectivity while reporting issues concerning Nigeria. This was while playing host to the Deputy CEO and Director Global News of the British Broadcasting Corporation, BBC, Jonathan Monroe. Salihu Gwanara completes the report.
Nigeria has remained a preferred destination for businesses from around the world. British Broadcasting Corporation, BBC, is one of those organizations taking advantage of Nigeria's population and rich culture and pledged to continue partnership. Here, the Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, assured investors with genuine interest in promoting Nigeria's unity in diversity, particularly those in the media industry, a conducive atmosphere and freedom.
The Nigerian authorities, particularly this administration, is committed to ensuring that practitioners in the area of media and journalism generally do their operations freely without any form of interference, and we intend to keep it so. But we also urge you to continue to balance your stories, to hear our side, our own side of the story. It's not only the bad news that comes out of Nigeria, a lot of good things. I'm sure your correspondents on ground will have seen that.
We're committed to continuing with our mission and to growing our audience here in Nigeria, particularly those audiences who find consumption of news more challenging, perhaps those who are not as capable of getting news digitally as other parts of the country. And thanks to the partnership we have with the Nigerian people, we have more than 30 million people coming to our news services every week.
The minister solicited support and partnership with BBC to sustain the training of Nigerian broadcasters. In Abuja, Salihu Gwanara, NTA News.
Meanwhile, Vice Chancellor, Federal University, Kashiri, Gombe State, Professor Umar Pati, has emerged pioneer president of the Society of Nigerian Broadcasters following election of new executives at its first national conference. Charles Alpha reports that new members were also inducted at the event in Abuja.
Day 2 of the conference began with the induction of 157 new members cutting across various broadcasting organizations in Nigeria. They were tasked with the responsibility of upholding the tenets and core values of the broadcast organization. After the induction came the maiden election. Vice Chancellor, Federal University, Gombe State, and the former zonal director of the Society of Nigerian Broadcasters, Okodua Matthew, were the two candidates who contested for the post of the president. with the rest positions unopposed. Professor Pate won with 231 votes, while Mr. Okodwa garnered 12 votes.
We are accepting to serve the broadcasting industry, to promote the integrity and interest of every broadcaster.
Convener of the National Conference and Chairman Broadcasting Organization of Nigeria, BON, Saliu Abdul Hamid Dembos, and other veterans expect a rapid transformation under this new leadership.
There is so much to be done. We need to, in the first place, have the legal backing for this association. And of course, we have to extend our dragnet for membership.
We will wish to see, is the welfare of broadcasters in Nigeria.
We want sanity in this industry.
That have almost given up all. Then it springs forth and begins to grow rapidly.
Before now, the Society of Nigerian Broadcasters was overseen by the leadership of BON. The new executive members are expected to serve for an initial 2 years. Charles Alpha, NTA News.
From media matters to power generation, with a new and achievable target of 6,000 megawatts of electricity supply this year, the federal government is engaging power generation and distribution companies to sustain the current momentum of improvement in supply. The Minister of Power, Adebayo Adelabu, tasked industry players to restore customer confidence in the sector. Joshua Ojito reports.
Industry players across generation, transmission and distribution arms of the power sector meet to review their performances while highlighting challenges impeding the growth of the sector.
We've achieved 5,155 megawatts, specifically on the 8th of August, which keeps us on the right track to achieving these 6,000. But we have to sustain it. So we have all identified the impediments to achieving this, which we have discussed here as a team, and we have set up a committee that will ensure that all these impediments are dealt with, from infrastructure, from off-taking, from anything that we believe will be cog in the wheel of progress of achieving this.
There are challenges of revenue collection by the distribution companies, especially from the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria and some ministries, departments and agencies of government, and the meeting adopt measures to addressing the issue, among other challenges. On local content, federal government insists industry players must adopt local content policy for job creation and discourage importation of power equipment, as committee to enforce compliance is to be set up. Joshua Ojito, NTA News.
Away from electricity, President Bola Tinubu extends his heartfelt congratulations to Dr. Peter Odili on his 76th birthday. In a statement, the president joins friends, family, and the good people of Rivers State to celebrate the former governor between 1999 and 2007, wishing Dr. Odili more strength to mentor generations in politics and community leaders for national development. And on the political front, the National Working Committee of the governing All Progressives Congress, APC, says every necessary arrangement has been reached to hold its National Executive Committee meeting in September 2024. The National Working Committee of the party has also reacted to the court judgment which sacked the caretaker committee members of the River State chapter of the party, describing it as an abuse of court procedures since the Emeka Beke-led State Working Committee was already filed.
It will interest all of you to know that before that judgment, there was a judgment that had sacked the Emeka Beke executive committee, which gave rise to the establishment of the caretaker committee, to which they had appealed, and the matter is still pending before the Court of Appeal. As far as the NWC is concerned, this is a total abuse of court process, and we are still waiting for his appeal at the appellate level on his sack. And subsequent upon that details and subsequent upon that fact, we as an NWC deliberated on the matter and are reiterating the fact that we are still recognizing, in view of his his appeal in the first matter, we are still recognizing the Okocha-led caretaker committee.
The committee is appealing to members to remain calm as the party will abide strictly by court decisions for victory. And now we're joining our Lagos Network Center for more reports with Hingino. Over to you.
Thank you, Najatu. Nigeria is determined to sustain the zero incidence of piracy and sea robbery in its maritime domain through joint efforts of security operatives and collaboration with international partners to further harness the potential of the blue economy. Director General of NIMASA says Nigeria's target of increasing its revenue through the maritime sector is feasible with all stakeholders now on the same page. Joel Pupola has the report.
Over the years, ending piracy has been top on the agenda of all stakeholders in the maritime industry. This is because of the threats to business activities along the coastlines in the country. The Gulf of Guinea is one of the areas that Nigeria and the international community have jointly sanitized through effective policing. The major priorities of the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, according to the Director General, is to leverage on the zero piracy and the Deep Blue project, which was received with enthusiasm at the interaction the DG had at the Chatham House in the United Kingdom.
The President of Nigeria has given us the mandate to do is to strengthen the Deep Blue project and also to work intensively with all the military apparatus and also expand the assets.
The Director General and other stakeholders agreed that with the extension of Nigeria's continental shelf by 20 nautical miles, more efforts will be put in place to maximize the gains.
We need equipment, we need resources, we need manpower to do all of this. And to do it, we also need the international support.
A very innovative team who are always on the lookout for new opportunities, who are also creating opportunities, not just waiting for opportunities to come.
NIMASA is also seeking synergy with the media to project the prospects of Nigeria's maritime sector to attract foreign investors and create more opportunities. In Lagos, Joel Pupola, NTA News.
The Lagos State government is intensifying efforts to diversify its economy and boost internally generated revenue through a robust partnership with the Revenue Mobilisation, Allocation and Fiscal Commission. The Commissioner for Finance disclosed this during a visit by the Commission at the Lagos House, Ikeja. Ese Onwamaka reports.
Economic hub of West Africa thrives majorly on its internally generated revenue, which is the mainstay of its economy. The task of ensuring that Lagos State continues to have a robust and diversified income base driven substantially by its IGRO is dependent on the support, cooperation and collaboration with agencies at the federal level, such as the Revenue Mobilisation, Allocation and Fiscal Commission, RMAFC. This visit by a team of delegates from RMAFC, led by Alhaji Ismail Agaka, lauded the state's financial strength and fiscal economy. He says the Commission is eager to learn from Lagos State in order to properly guide other states of the Federation.
When we talk about best practices, is to see what is working very well here, so as to advise others that, look, make Lagos State a role model for you in this specific area. Likewise, if we have seen other states that are doing better than Lagos in certain areas, we are going to also tell Lagos State that, look, learn from that state.
The Commissioner for Finance, Abayomi Oluyomi, while acknowledging the role of RMAFC in enhancing states' competencies and assisting them in diversifying their economic basis, noted that Lagos State government will continue to collaborate in order to expand the economic potential of the state.
The opportunity that is being presented by this committee of Ramford, that we tap into that opportunity so that we can grow Lagos of our dreams. We are dreaming very big for Lagos State so that we can get to the objective of what Mr. Governor has set out to achieve for the citizens of Lagos State.
The team of the RMAFC is on the working tour across the 36 states of the Federation to assess the efforts of states in implementing government policies and programs. In Lagos, S.C. Owamaka, NTA News.
That's it from Lagos. Network News will continue after this break with Najatu in Abuja.
It's nice to know you're still watching the network news on NTA, and we're talking geriatric care, or the care of the elderly next. And strengthening advocacy on the rights of the elderly in Nigeria is gaining the support of associations, with the latest in the Urubu Leadership Forum, Abuja. The visit by members of the group to the National Senior Citizen Center is a response to the changing dynamics in geriatric care across Nigeria by the National Senior Citizen Center to promote inclusion and protect the rights of the elderly. The forum is poised to advance the cause of the older population.
We will collaborate to make Nigeria better for all of us, not just the senior citizens, but also the younger generation who one day will step into our shoes.
Applauding the synergy, the Director General of the National Senior Citizen Center noted that there is a need to leverage the potential of the elderly to promote the center's operations for intergenerational impact.
You need to contribute.
Advancing cooperation, stabilization, peace building and promoting sustainable development among the member states of Nigeria, Niger, Chad and Cameroon is expected to dominate discussions at the upcoming meeting of the Lake Chad Basin Governors Forum. This was made known at the inaugural meeting of the local organizing committee for the hosting of the 5th edition of the Governors Meeting held in Damaturu, Yobe State. Yunusa Suleiman reports.
This meeting was summoned by the chairperson of the local organizing committee and secretary to Yobe State government, Malam to plan and make adequate arrangements ahead of the 5th meeting of the Lake Chad Basin Governors Forum to be hosted by Yobe State government. The significant regional event, the chairperson says, is scheduled to hold from 14th to 18th of October 2024. And will also bring together key stakeholders to address critical issues affecting the Lake Chad Basin region.
Our task is to ensure that this meeting, we are going to have a meeting with the Lake Chad Basin Commission sometimes around the 21st of this month. They will be coming from N'Djamena in order to also rub minds and to ensure that all hands are on deck to ensure the success of the meeting.
The local organizing committee chairperson reaffirmed the commitment of Yobe State government to hosting a successful and meaningful meeting reflecting the forum's dedication to the peace, stability and prosperity of the Lake Chad Basin region. During the upcoming regional meeting, Governor Buni of Yobe State is expected to take charge as the forum's chairperson for the first time. In Damaturu, Yunusa Suleiman, NTA News.
Stay tuned for more reports right after this timeout. Democratic Republic of Congo records more than 500 Mpox fatalities as France marks 80th province landings of World War II. Chukunonso Mwabwezi has the details on Global Update.
DRC Health Minister Samuel Roger Kamba said on Thursday that Mpox outbreak in the country has killed 548 people since the start of the year, with all provinces affected by the virus. He stated that the latest epidemiological report indicates that the Democratic Republic of Congo recorded 15,664 potential cases of Mpox, Of the 26 provinces that made up DRC with a population of around 100 million people, 8 provinces are most affected. In the town of Mpenda, efforts are being ramped up to educate people about the disease and the need for early treatment. Meanwhile, President Emmanuel Macron, at a ceremony to mark the 80th anniversary of the 1944 Second World War Allied landings in province, praised the contribution of African soldiers who were often recruited by force. President Macron said troops from Cameroon, Central African Republic, Gabon, Togo, Morocco and Niger sacrificed their lives when they made the Germans flee on 22nd August 1944. Cameroonian President Paul Biya, who was among 6 African leaders who attended the event, said there would have been no Allied victory without the contribution from foreigners. He stated that the fight was conducted together to defend the universal values and ideas of peace and justice. Chukunonsonwa Bweze, NTA News.
You're just in time for live sports action with Bade Adele. Bade.
Many thanks, Najato. Let's begin with basketball. As Nigeria's D Tigers have slipped for places in the recent FIBA ranking released Thursday, the country's men's team dropped from 39th to 42nd after accumulating 299.7 points in the current FIBA ranking. And of course, it places them as the 6th best basketball nation in Africa. South Sudan are currently the top-ranked team on the continent, followed by Cote d'Ivoire, Angola, Tunisia, and Egypt. Now, all is set for the maiden edition of the Nigerian Youth League Cup. 30 teams made up of feeder teams from the Nigeria Premier Football League and second division clubs, alongside football academies divided into 2 groups of 15 teams each, are participating in the tournament. The matches, which will be played in home and away format, will run from the 8th of September 2024 to April 2025, with Tuesday chosen as the traditional match days.
Youth League Cup, founded in 2023, will become the fastest youth league in Africa very soon. It will soon grow to over 1 million members and participants and followers in all 36 states and including the FCT. Among several others, our cardinal objective is to enable young people to benefit from participation in team sport and activities in a safe and structured environment, to inspire youth regardless of race, creed, or national origin in practice.
And finally, former Chelsea manager Mauricio Pochettino has agreed to take over as the coach of the United States men's team. The Argentine, who has been out of work since parting ways with Chelsea in May after 1 season with the Premier League side, will lead the team into the 2026 World Cup, being co-hosted by the United States, Mexico, and Canada. The U.S. men's team have been without a coach since Grace Berhalter was fired in July. And of course, with that, we're done with Sports Update. It's back to Najatu.
Thank you, Bade. Sympathizers at a 3-day funeral prayer of late Malam Abdullahu in Bashama Road, Tudunwada, Kaduna, have described the deceased as a God-fearing man who believed in the unity of Nigeria. Haruna Mohammed reports.
In their numbers, sympathizers from all walks of life, including the former military governor of Kaduna State, Colonel Jafaru Isa, retired, and the media, conveyed for the 3rd-day funeral prayer of the father of the former executive director news of NTA, Malam Abdullahu. Having recited the Holy Quran, prayer was held for the repose of the soul of the deceased and for Allah to grant him Al-Jannah Firdaus.
Late Baba Abdullahi was an outstanding personality, a quintessential family man, an excellent community leader.
But looking at how peaceful the ending came, it's something to really say Alhamdulillah.
Late Malam Abdullahi died after a protracted illness at the age of 93, leaving behind 8 children, including the former Executive Director News, Labu of NTA, and many grandchildren. In Kaduna, Haruna Mohammed, NTA News.
On that note, we conclude the network news on NTA. Thank you for being a part of our bulletin as usual.